When I bought my 40-acre farm on the outskirts of town, all I wanted was peace, privacy, and the satisfaction of working my land without anyone meddling in my business. My property had one long gravel road leading to my barn and house, surrounded by wooden fences and private property signs posted every 50 feet. Life was quiet, until I met Karen. She was the president of the nearby HOA, a tightly controlled community that bordered one corner of my land. From the first week, she made her presence known. She'd march up to my gate, clipboard in hand, demanding that I maintain the aesthetic harmony of the neighborhood, even though my farm wasn't part of her HOA. I brushed her off politely at first, thinking she'd get bored and leave me alone. But then she started driving her SUV through my property, using my farm road as a shortcut to get to the main highway. The first time I assumed she was lost. The second time I realized she was doing it deliberately. When I confronted her, she said, "This road is the most convenient way for us to access the main road. You should be happy we're using it. It improves your property value." I couldn't believe her nerve. I told her in no uncertain terms that if she crossed my land again, I'd call the sheriff for trespassing. She laughed in my face, rolled up her window, and sped off, kicking gravel and dust all over my fields. That was the moment I knew this wasn't going to stop with polite words. For the next few days, I watched from my barn as Karen and her HOA friends used my farm road like it was their own private highway. The more I told them to stop, the more defiant they became. They'd wave at my security cameras, honk their horns, and even bring friends to show off their new shortcut. It wasn't just disrespectful, it was dangerous. They tore up the gravel, scared my livestock, and damaged my irrigation lines. Enough was enough. I decided if Karen wouldn't respect my words, she'd respect consequences. Before I took action, I consulted the sheriff's office. The deputy confirmed that my road was 100% private property and that I had every right to restrict access. He even told me with a knowing smile, "As long as you post warnings, you can put up whatever you need to protect your property, within reason." That was all I needed to hear. The next day, I went into town and bought heavy-duty spike strips, the kind law enforcement uses to stop vehicles in high-speed chases. I didn't intend to harm anyone. I just wanted a clear deterrent. I installed a large reflective sign at the start of my driveway. "Private road. Unauthorized vehicles will be disabled." Below that, I placed a camera pointing directly at the entrance. Then, a few feet past the gate, I set up the retractable spike strips, buried just beneath the gravel and controlled remotely from my porch. For 2 days, everything was quiet. I thought maybe the sign scared them off. But then, one bright Saturday morning, I heard the unmistakable rumble of Karen's SUV. Through the window, I saw her car turn off the main road and head straight toward my driveway. She even had 2 HOA board members riding with her, laughing and sipping coffee. I waited until she passed the warning sign, then flipped the switch. The spikes popped up just as her tires rolled over them. The sound of 4 simultaneous pops echoed through the air, followed by the shrill whine of deflating rubber. Her SUV jerked forward and came to a dead stop halfway up my drive. I walked out calmly, camera in hand, recording every step. Karen jumped out, screaming, "You're going to pay for this! You destroyed my car!" I reminded her that the entire thing was recorded, including her ignoring multiple warning signs. Her face went from red to pale in seconds. She shouted about calling the police, and I told her to go ahead, because I'd be doing the same. When the sheriff arrived, I handed him the footage, showing her blowing past the signs and trespassing for weeks. Karen tried to twist the story, claiming that she had permission from the city to use the road as a shared access route. The deputy raised an eyebrow and asked her for documentation. Of course, she had none. Instead, she began blaming me, saying that I set a trap. The deputy turned to her and said, "Ma'am, you ignored multiple warnings and drove onto private property. That's trespassing and destruction of property, your own." Her mouth dropped open as he explained that she was lucky I didn't press full charges. I decided to show some restraint and told the deputy I'd settle if she paid for the gravel damage and signed a written agreement never to set foot or tire on my land again. He drafted it on the spot. Karen refused at first, crossing her arms and muttering about lawyer friends. But after the deputy mentioned potential fines and a civil suit, she signed, furious, shaking, and humiliated. As her SUV was towed away, she glared at me like I'd committed a crime. I simply smiled and waved. Word spread fast through the HOA community. Within a day, every neighbor knew what had happened. Some secretly congratulated me, saying they'd been tired of Karen's bossy attitude for years. Others avoided me altogether, scared they'd be next if they crossed me. Either way, peace returned to my farm. In the weeks that followed, I reinforced my boundaries even more, installing stronger fencing, adding extra cameras, and planting rows of hedges along the perimeter. Not a single HOA member tried using my road again. Every time I drove past the edge of their subdivision, I'd catch a glimpse of Karen's house, her once pristine driveway now empty since she was still waiting for her insurance claim to process. Rumor had it the insurance company refused to pay out because she had willingly ignored posted warnings. Karma works in mysterious ways. About a month later, I was at the local feed store when one of her former HOA board members approached me. He chuckled and said, "You know, ever since you dealt with her, our meetings have been quiet. She resigned last week." I couldn't help but grin. Finally, I had my peace back and justice had been served without a single punch thrown. Looking out over my farm now, the fields swaying under the afternoon sun, I feel nothing but satisfaction. I didn't start a war, I just defended what was mine. If people like Karen learned anything from this, it's that entitlement doesn't give you the right to trespass. Sometimes all it takes to put a stop to arrogance is a clear sign, a bit of patience, and, when necessary, a few well-placed spike strips.